Okay, good morning, everyone. We are now broadcasting live on our YouTube channel. We do have quorums.
Paul, you going to call the roll for quorum?
Just to be clear, is the chair today is Wendy? Is Wendy Macy on, or am I facilitating today's meeting?
So actually, we have Yuri, who is her alternate, so she will chair the meeting. And then Charles, to your question, yeah, Paul, can you just call the roll of attendees, since just so we have that for the record? Or maybe
I think we lost Paul.
I think Paul put himself on mute.
Okay, then I will call the roll. So Yuri, you're on mute.
Present, yes.
Okay. Holly, are you with us, Holly?
Yeah, I'm having internet problems.
Okay. Holly, Tony?
Here.
Matt?
Here.
Paul?
Here.
Thanks. Dave?
Present.
Gavin?
Present.
Marlene?
Here.
Gary?
Here.
And is there anybody I missed? JLMBC members? Okay. So we have a quorum, and so Yuri, you can call the meeting to order.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Paul, will you be sharing your screen?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Actually, I need to change my role now that I got kicked out. Give me 1 second. I'll share my screen. Okay, can you change my permissions? There we go. So next item is public comment.
Okay, are there any public comments?
At this time, we ask anybody who's participating by phone if you can unmute yourself by pressing *6 and announce yourself if you have a public comment. Hearing none.
All right, then we're going to move on to the next section item, the minutes. Does anybody have any questions, comments, discussion?
I'll entertain a motion to approve. We probably should do them separately. I'll do the January 6th first minutes. I'll make a motion to approve those.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second. This is Matthew.
All right.
We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. So we'll go down the list: management, then labor. Yuri, your vote.
Aye.
Yuri votes aye. Paul Gerard, your vote.
Aye.
Paul votes aye. Tony, your vote.
Aye.
Tony votes aye. Matt Rednick, your vote.
Aye.
Matt votes aye. Holly, your vote.
Aye.
Holly votes aye. Dave, your vote.
Yes, aye.
Dave votes aye. Marlene, your vote.
Aye.
Marlene votes aye. Jennifer, your vote.
Aye.
Jennifer votes aye. Gary, your vote.
Aye.
Gary votes aye. And Gavin, your vote.
Aye.
Gavin votes aye. It's unanimous. The motion passes for January 6 minutes.
These are the second motion. I'll make the second motion that we approve the December 14th minutes.
Awesome. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and do the same order roll call vote. Yuri, your vote.
Aye.
Yuri votes aye. Paul Gerard, your vote.
Aye.
Paul votes aye. Tony, your vote.
Aye.
Tony votes aye. Matt Rednick, your vote.
Aye.
Matt votes aye. Holly, your vote?
Aye.
Holly votes aye. Dave, your vote? Dave, are you there?
Yes, I vote aye. Can you hear me?
Thank you, Dave. Yep, hear you now. Dave votes aye. Marlene, your vote?
Aye.
Marlene votes aye. Jennifer, your vote?
Aye.
Jennifer votes aye. Gary, your vote?
Aye.
Gary votes aye. And Gavin, your vote?
Aye.
Gavin votes aye. It's unanimous. The motion for the December 14th minutes passes.
All right, moving on. The next action item is the committee report 22-02 AB 361 update and resolution adoption.
Yeah, so this is just a recommendation for you to adopt a resolution like the ones you've adopted on prior occasions that finds that due to the ongoing COVID emergency, conducting your meetings via teleconference is necessary to protect the health and safety of attendees. So this action would ensure the JLMBC meets the 30-day renewal requirement for the teleconference option.
Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Tony Royster, I'll second.
Thank you.
Great. With that motion, we'll go through the same order again. Yuri, your vote?
Aye.
Yuri votes aye. Paul Gerard, your vote?
Aye.
Paul votes aye. Tony, your vote?
Aye.
Tony votes aye. Matt Rudnick, your vote?
Aye.
Matt votes aye. Holly, your vote?
Aye.
Holly votes aye. Dave, your vote?
Aye.
Hi, Dave. Are you there? There, I got here. Thank you, Dave. Dave votes aye. Marlene, your vote?
Aye.
Marlene votes aye. Jennifer, your vote?
Aye.
Jennifer votes aye. Gary, your vote?
Aye.
Gary votes aye. And Gavin, your vote?
Aye.
Gavin votes aye. It's unanimous. The motion passes.
The next item on the agenda is the committee report 22-03 health services procurement. I believe, Stephen, you're going to present?
Yes, I will do so. I'll start off with just a brief reminder, especially for any of you not with us during the health services procurement that we did last year. We attempted a procurement in 2021, which ran into a number of issues that led us to, unfortunately, having to cancel that process, in large part because we essentially ran out of time to complete that process in time for the very strict sort of programming and administrative timelines and deadlines we need to meet in order to get to a successful October open enrollment. So the JLMBC created a subcommittee to work with us and with the LA Well program consultants on redesigning the procurement for reissuance this year. And that's what we are presenting today. So I'm going to walk you through the RFP documents not the actual documents themselves, but sort of pointing out to you, as we've highlighted in the report, what the major distinctions are in this procurement compared to what we did in 2021. The primary focus is to identify ways to reduce process risks and apply the lessons that we learned from the prior attempt to get to a successful and timely outcome this year. So on pages 2 and 3 of the report, we have a chart that highlights those key distinctions. And so I'm going to walk you through those. We worked very closely with Siegel. Primarily, we also worked with Keenan. I've also got Steve Murphy here, and there may be some comments that he'll be making as well as we kind of walk through these and answer any questions that you have. So first of all, The first one we have listed here is the division of the procurement. So what we're proposing to do this time different than last time is to break this up into 2 RFPs. We've called them, one of this is the network plans RFP, which includes all of the non-staff model plans that are composed of networks of providers. And then we've got the staff model RFP. That's the Kaiser model that we have with the current incumbent, in which they employ their employees directly, and they own their own hospitals. So the advantage of breaking them up from the process perspective is that the review committee, we will be taking the staff model proposer out of the analytical mix on the networks plan side, because they're very different. Really, it's a much more efficient process to be looking at those proposers completely independently, since it's already a pretty complicated mix of work that we're doing. So that should help the network plan review process, which tends to be lengthier, move more quickly for the review committee.
Stephen, if I could comment, I think the other advantage of having a division of the RFPs is that, as Stephen noted, because the network option is so much more complex to review, we're able to issue that RFP sooner and get the responses back sooner, so we have more time to dedicate towards that review process, and then keep everything kind of on track for kind of timeline and decisions as are referenced later in the report.
Stephen, will there then be 2 separate review committees, or is it one review committee for both RFPs?
No, it'll be one review committee for both.
I have a quick question. What particular item really caused the issue or challenge in the prior RFP?
Well, I think, as you know, for each of these that we're walking through, all of them contributed to it. So I don't know that there's necessarily one. I think one of the areas that led to particular confusion, and we did sort of share this with the JLMBC last year, was the confusion over the best and final. But I think very closely linked to that was the fact that we had this a la carte, this kind of opportunity for proposers to carve out on the network plan side, and sort of if they wanted to say, well, we'll only propose this particular plan type, then that also led to confusion and time in the review process, because then what you're trying to do is to basically sort through what are the implications of that. So we've really tried to correct both of those things in this procurement, and that really should reduce the process risk considerably. But I think, you know, as we walk through these, I think it still maintains all of the core objectives of the procurements.
Is there a separate questionnaire for the HMO side as opposed to the PPO side? And we reduced the amount of questions. Are there the same questions for both?
There are slightly fewer questions on the staff model plan, because a lot of the questions that apply in the network plans RFP don't apply to them. So in fact, we have the numbers. So it's 221 questions. I'm sorry, 141 in the network plans RFP and 121 questions in the staff model RFP.
And are we able to see the questionnaire before it goes out?
Right. The questionnaire is included in the RFPs, which that should be in the attachments.
It is? Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
So, Stephen, could you just briefly explain exactly how does the best and final process work?
So we're not doing, so what we're proposing to do here is to basically go back to what we normally do in our procurements. and which, by the way, aligns with what our understanding is of the way that procurements are typically conducted, because best and final, as we subsequently found through our research, really is not used very frequently, so there's kind of a lack of clarity on exactly how something like that could be structured. We also looked at some outside agencies and found that their application of it was much more limited. So you know, when we looked at the other agencies, what they might do is they would give proposers, some proposers, an opportunity to reprice, but they would do it blind, in the sense that those proposers would not know what their competitors had proposed. For this RFP, because we need to conduct our process very quickly, it really doesn't make sense to say, price your proposal, and then perhaps a few weeks later, ask them, do you want to reprice? From our perspective, it makes more sense to tell them, give us your first best offer. And then, as with all procurements, there is an opportunity once a recommendation and a contract award has been made, to be able to go back to that vendor if there is interest from the committee in this, and ask them if or sort of have some final discussion as to price.
Like a final negotiations or whatever.
Right.
Right. So we make sure we clearly articulate that in the RFP, so every proposer understand this is the process. So there's no misunderstanding.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let me just say, and I think I've said this before, I don't know, I've seen what baffles have worked. I think our problem was, without knowing all the facts, Tony, you asked questions about what happened. I think maybe the execution of the baffle, in my opinion, was the problem, not so much having a baffle. But I support now, as the recommendation says now, and we'll get to that vote, but I was a part of the subcommittee to move forward with it.
So actually, I mean, this discussion, we actually hit some of the key points I was going to make. So if you'd like, I can just maybe kind of walk through some of the points that I didn't miss, and then also to see if there's any other questions. I
mean, a quick question before we start again. Are we having like a pre-bidder conference before we send RFPs out? So, you know, bidders clearly understand what this process is, so there's no complaints or whatever after the process starts, to make sure, you know, they have a clear understanding. Because sometimes they'll, after the fact, they'll start complaining about it, but it needs to be clearly, you know, a clear understanding, this is the process and there's not gonna be any changes.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, we always do that with all of our procurements, and actually I think we've gotten a lot better at it if we look at the results, because in years past, we had more situations where we had proposers who would submit proposals, but then they would be missing documents, or they wouldn't have understood the process, and then they couldn't be considered, like they would be need to be deemed non-compliant with the process. We really have not been experiencing that. We didn't experience it with this procurement the last time, so I think we're in a good place there.
Okay.
It'll be, Stephen, it's a mandatory pre-proposal conference, right?
It is, yes.
Okay.
So let's see, we've talked about the bundling. Any other questions about the unbundling of the proposals that we did last time versus what we're doing here, which is requiring on the network plan side that if they are going to propose, we're looking for a comprehensive solution. And actually, Steve, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add on that point.
Yeah, for context, enrollment within the city plans is probably, I'll simplify this, but it's about 90% are in HMO style plans and 10% in the PPO plan. That includes Kaiser. So it'd be very difficult for someone to provide a cost-effective PPO plan on a standalone basis without having the ability to kind of underwrite the entire group holistically. So again, for premium stability purposes, for competitiveness, doing it on a bundled basis should deliver the best solution for the city, and has been the case in the past. So that's the reason for kind of bundling it. And again, I think it will streamline the process, because I think a lot of time was spent looking at some kind of slice options or kind of unique options, which I think ultimately didn't help or take us to what the city's ultimate goal was. So I think doing on a bundled basis will position you to get the best results and do it on a timely basis.
Okay. Any other questions there? Or? Okay. So then,
One quick question.
oh,
I'm
sure.
assuming that we'll study this afterwards. And if it didn't work as efficiently as we had hoped, we'll revisit that model. That's all. I like to always study with the current, see where, like you said earlier, this developed out of trying to improve the process. So I'm assuming we'll continue that strategy going forward. That's all.
Yes, absolutely. I think in some ways we learn from every procurement, and some procurements we learn more than others. So this is definitely one that we are paying a lot of attention to, and we recognize what the significance of it is. So the next thing that I wanted to point out, and we didn't really talk about this earlier, but it's with respect to disruption, and we really want to focus this procurement to a much greater degree on having proposers identify their solutions for matching members with existing providers, with an emphasis on minimizing the disruption, but also, and this is really important, that we are not also disruptive in terms of the premium price points for both the member and the city. So what that means is, you know, if a proposer came forward and said, well, sure, I can get your member access to this provider, but it's in this plan, which is much more expensive than what they or what the city has been paying previously. That's you know, that obviously is not what we're looking for. So we really want to focus them more on matching and telling us what is, if your proposal's accepted and your networks, what does that look like? What is the actual impact to the participants? And that will once again help us to focus on that very important piece of the analysis, which is disruption, but also minimize, I think, some of the confusion that arose last year when we were looking at this. And Steve, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I think consistent with the issue regarding the bundled proposals, disruption is really important from the city perspective, but it's also, we have a defined path that we can follow for the non-Kaiser members, but those that are enrolled in HMO. They have made an active election to affiliate with a particular medical group. It could be UCLA, it could be St. Jude Heritage in Orange County. It could be any, but it's like, we know they've elected to partner or affiliate with a certain medical provider or group. So using that information, every carrier has an idea of where those members are, and then they can develop their price point based on the contracts they have with those groups. So it is a great starting point for us to figure out, okay, if we can kind of target quote unquote zero disruption, what's the price point? And that gives us a real good baseline. There may be some disruption, but again, that would be up to the committee and the JLMBC to determine whether the financial offer is worthy of kind of the potential impact to members that might have. So that will give us a pretty good idea of kind of what the value of that overall offer is based on the disruption and price point.
I just gotta appreciate that being in here because some of you may remember several years ago, we had quite an issue with disruptions to members and of course the UCLA fiasco. So I really appreciate that being part of the strategy going forward. Thanks.
Is there anything in the contract at RFP say a company agrees that there will be like at the very most 3 or 4% disruption, but they do not meet that criteria? Is there a penalty for not meeting that if they have agreed or signed a contract to meet that rate and didn't meet it?
That's a good question. I don't think we have explicitly had that kind of language before, but I think we could. I mean, the idea of this is that the proposed disruption, like that would be known before the selection is made. However, I think what you're talking about is the risk that something changes in between when the contract award is made and when you get to January of the following year. And right. I think yes, there could be something that could be incorporated there.
Tony, I think to build off that is you'll make your evaluation based on the RFP responses, but what we could do is build out a performance guarantee that states that the level of provider or network match at the point that you made the decision, is for arbitrary purposes, let's say it's a 95% match, and that's what we choose to go forward with. If there is a variance greater than 95% in subsequent years, then there would be a financial penalty to the carrier for not meeting that threshold. And again, there are probably other things we could do too to keep the focus on access and minimizing disruption.
Right.
That's just one example.
Okay.
Would you ask for or expect vendors to come in with different levels of disruption at different costs? Or is that even a thing?
I would anticipate that there will be some level of disruption. What the tolerance level is, I think we'll have to determine based on proposals we receive. So we'll kind of take that into account. The best example I can give is that for a particular geographic area, one provider group may be dominant and have the majority of membership. There may be alternative medical groups in the same area that could service them, but that would be a disruption. So geographically, it wouldn't be that big a shift, but for a member or a patient, it could be significant in having to make that shift. So that's what we have to kind of monitor. So again, I think the financial, if there was a 0% disruption across the board, it would be purely a financial exercise. What's the lowest price point? Given that there may be some potential disruption, that's where I think we'll have to kind of gauge that as a group, be it the selection committee or the JLMBC overall, to determine what level of disruption is worth it based on the financial offer.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this this item? Okay. Then we've already talked about the BAFO process, and so what we're doing here. So the last point that we haven't touched on yet is the elimination of the engagement exercises. So for those of you who have worked with us over the years, you know that these oral engagement exercises where there's an opportunity for the review committee and the proposers to interact in a more in a way in which there's just a greater opportunity for back and forth. Those have generally added value. However, in this case, due to the importance of it and just the fact that we want to be very attentive to process and protecting our process, we are recommending that in this procurement, all of the communications will be in writing, will be required to be in writing. This produces accountability, and it makes sure that whatever representations that are made, those have been documented. So there's no ambiguity. So this doesn't, however, preclude the JLMBC from doing what is normally a part of its process, particularly for something a procurement as significant as this, which is to interview the proposers if it wishes, or interview finalists if it wishes. And those meetings would all be public, be part of the public record, and that would occur after the review committee's evaluation. So any questions on that piece of it? Okay, then the last two or three things that I just want to quickly highlight in the report is there is a pledge form that is part of again what we do with all of our procurements. We ask the JLMBC members, all of the staff, and all of the review committee members to complete that. This just demonstrates our collective commitment to the integrity and transparency of the process. So we would ask for the members to complete those, and we'll reach out to you separately on that. And then in terms of the review committee, of course, it's going to include the staff, and we will have support from the consultants. We're proceeding on the assumption that, just like last time, there's going to be a labor and management interest in having their respective representatives participate on the committee. So we've reiterated in this report some of the conditions and expectations we articulated last year, and we would just need those designations to be to come to us from the chair and the vice chair. And we would ask to get those by the end of next week.
How about the day for the labor designation?
That's great.
Shauna's raising her hand. You just don't see her yet. So she is.
Okay. That's great. It was wonderful working with her last time. So we will look forward to that. On the management side, we'll wait to hear if on that. And we want to get everybody sort of lined up, because another improvement over the last time is we want to have a number of opportunities to orient folks, to sort of give them any kind of background information, just make sure everybody is sort of on the same page in terms of, or at the same level, I guess, in terms of understanding some of the concepts and just how to look at the material. We think that'll help their process, help them get through the material as expeditiously as possible. And then the last thing is on the calendar. We've outlined all of the key dates. So the goal is to get the network plans RFP out by the 11th. And the staff model RFP would follow 2 weeks later. The response will come at the end of March. The bulk of the review will take place in April. There will be multiple meetings of the JLMBC in May to arrive at decisions. And the objective is going to be to get to council in June before they go on recess, to have them take their annual action, which they do to adopt the LAWell program as a whole. So if we do all of that according to our timeline, then we are good to go for October and the next plan year. So any other questions or comments on any part of the report?
I have a question just in general, Stephen, about the staffing, because I know there's a lot of transition happening within the city, and particularly with the relevant division here. So can you speak a bit to that? Because I know that is a bit of a concern. We do want to make sure that there's adequate resources to see this through to conclusion, particularly after the last one was unsuccessful. So we really want to make sure that this one, makes it into the station, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. And we did share. I think it was at the last meeting where the division is at. So we are right in the middle, actually, of our selection process for the next chief of the division. And so what's one of the things that we're doing actually to add time and not have this be a situation where I'm leaving one day and the incoming chief would be starting the next day, is actually there's an opportunity that we're taking advantage of, in which once the appointment for the successor is made, then I would move over to a presently vacant position at the same level with a deferred compensation plan. And the advantage there is that provides some time in which I would be able to work side by side with the new person. So that will be, we think that'll be really helpful. And also I'll also help to kind of shoulder the work, because we, in particularly for this RFP, that individual, we want them to know that this is the most important thing that's going to be sort of on their list as they're coming in and learning the operation.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Is there a sense of how long that transition, basically how long you would be, maybe shadowing is not the right term, but mentoring perhaps that individual? Right.
So I think, I don't have exact timing, but we are really hoping to conclude our process next month. So that should give a couple of months.
Okay, thank you. And I think last question, and I didn't see this in the report, but perhaps I missed it. Do we know who will be on the committee from the staffing side?
No, because well, part of it is we need to identify the next chief, right? So that piece of it will need to be figured out. It will include Paul, of course. He was part of the process the last time.
Okay.
So.
All right, thank you for that.
Okay, any other questions?
Sorry, one last thing I forgot. I do have some, of course, as I went through it, it's an illness. I have to do the, you could look at it as an illness, but I have to do the type correcting. So I do have a markup with the corrections, just small typos and things that I could send over.
That would be fine. Yeah,
for the RP
yeah.
document, if that's all right.
Yeah. That's fine, and actually the city attorney too is also kind of looking through it, and might make some modest corrections as well. So any of that kind of stuff, for sure you can get that to us. We'll take a look before we issue.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay. So if there are no other questions, then we would be looking for an action by the committee to approve the recommendations in the report.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the report?
I move that we accept the report. Tony words.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Gavin.
Okay, Paul.
And just to clarify, there are 3 parts to the recommendation. Is the motion for all 3, A, B, and C?
Yes.
And I understand that
Correct,
as
and
well. Yes.
Yep. Okay. In that case, then we'll go ahead and do the same order of roll call, our voting. So Yuri, your vote?
Aye.
Yuri votes aye. Paul Gerard, your vote?
Aye.
Paul votes aye. Tony, your vote?
Aye.
Tony votes aye. Matt Rudnick, your vote?
Aye.
Matt votes aye. Holly, your vote?
Aye.
Holly votes aye. Dave, your vote?
Aye.
Dave votes aye. Marlene, your vote?
Aye.
Marlene votes aye. Jennifer, your vote?
Aye.
Jennifer votes aye. Gary, your vote?
Aye.
Gary votes aye. And Gavin, your vote?
Aye.
Gavin votes aye. It's unanimous. The motion passes.
Okay, now we have item number 6, the committee report 22-04, Employee Benefits Trust Fund Staffing Reimbursement, second quarter fiscal year. Is this being presented by Ted?
Correct.
Yes. Good morning. This is Ted Vasquez, Benefits Analyst in the Employee Benefits Division. Committee Report 2204 is our staffing reimbursement report for the second quarter of fiscal year 2021-2022. The report requests that the committee approve reimbursements from the Employee Benefits Trust Fund for the Personnel Department salary costs of the 3 positions serving the LEWell program and the 1 position serving the LiveWell program. On attachment A of the report provides the calculation of the costs. And so the LEWell program's total reimbursement amount for the second quarter is $137,005.26. And the LiveWell program's total reimbursement amount is $62,684.05. And that concludes this report.
All right, is there any discussion, questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
I'll
I'll make
move the
a-
motion.
I'll second this, David.
Thank you. Paul?
Paul, is it
And
for
just to
A and
clarify
B?
again,
Sorry. Is this the motion for A and B?
Yes.
Okay.
Great. All right, given that, we'll go ahead with the same order. Yuri, your vote.
Aye.
Yuri votes aye. Paul Gerard, your vote.
Aye.
Paul votes aye. Tony, your vote.
Aye.
Tony votes aye. Matt Rudnick, your vote.
Aye.
Matt votes aye. Holly, your vote.
Aye.
Holly votes aye. Dave, your vote.
Aye.
Dave votes aye. Marlene, your vote.
Aye.
Marlene votes aye. Jennifer, your vote.
Aye.
Jennifer votes aye. Gary, your vote.
Aye.
Gary votes aye. And Gavin, your vote.
Aye.
Gavin votes aye. It's unanimous. The motion passes.
Okay, the last item on the agenda is item number 7, benefit provider presentation by Optum.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Megan Gardner from Keenan, and I'm pleased to present a brief overview before I turn things over to Kim with Optum to go through the details of the performance of the plan for calendar year 2020. Optum has been the EFAP provider since 2019. They took over for Managed Health Network, and they provide both core and enhanced services known as Support Plus for the city. There's a number of services that are provided. Those include services for not only your employees, but their family members. There's up to 5 sessions that employees can take advantage of per incident with behavioral health professionals, licensed behavioral health professionals. And the services touch on work-life services, training, and a whole host of things. One of the big things that obviously happened is one recurring record here is COVID did hit in 2020, and as a result of that, Optum did stand up a number of resources for the city that we thought were noteworthy to mention as part of their services, and that included additional network providers and virtual visit support, a member advocate assigned to the city, expanded visits from 5 to 10 for city employees that needed that extra support, and some additional training services. And Kim's going to touch on a number of those things and some of the utilization surrounding that. But we did want to note a couple things on the next slide, Paul. Thank you so much. Just to kind of a year-over-year comparison of services, the number of employees that are covered by the services, along with core utilization. Obviously, with moving remote, utilization did dip down, however, remained steady throughout the pandemic. And then you can see that the number of cases also went in tandem with the core utilization. We also noted some management referrals. It looks very normal with what we see across other clients, and Kim will touch on that for book of business. However, we did want to point out core utilization itself for the city for the 2020 and 2021 so far is below their book of business. So that is noteworthy. However, folks are still utilizing the service. The top 5 presenting issues include legal issues, anxiety, marital primary relationships, family issues, and workplace issues. And Kim is going to go into some deeper dive on those numbers and utilization. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Kim. Kim, are you there?
I am here. Can you all hear me well?
Sorry, can I just ask one quick question on that last slide?
Yes.
It's sort of a two-part question, but I kind of want to dive a little bit more into the core utilization decrease for 2020 and so far through 21, but specifically 2020. So it's lower than your book of business. How much of your book of business is private versus public sector? So I'm just kind of looking for like how apples to apples is it? And do we have any sense of why that utilization dipped? Because that's, I mean, to my mind, I would think it would be the opposite.
Yeah, so I can check the book of business numbers to give you the breakdown of the public versus private, and we can definitely break that down. But, you know, the dip in 2020, although we would think that everyone was running out to seek these services, there were just so many competing priorities for so many people. Self-care really took a back burner for a lot of people where they were at home with children, they were caregivers to others. They weren't even going for their annual medical checkups, right, to see if their cholesterol was good. There was just a big dip overall in seeking services. But as you can see, we're only through Q3 because, again, this report we're going to review today only goes through 9/30, and we're already meeting what you did for the entire year of 2020. So we're seeing that increase now as folks are really trying to get back to normal. I say that because it is very difficult and we're figuring that out, but we are seeing it now starting to increase where people are seeking the care that they need.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Well, I would like to introduce myself. So good morning, everyone. I'm Kim Marsicano, and I'm a senior account manager here at Optum. Been with Optum, UHC for about 15 years. And today I'm just going to review the 2021 through Q3 review for the City of LA EFAP and Support Plus program. So you can actually move down a couple of slides since Keenan gave us a great introduction. Don't want to repeat. You can go to the next one. So just want to touch on some of the highlights before we get into the numbers. So as Megan mentioned, we gave extended support for COVID-19. So there was a lot of different visit options, virtual care, online support, being able to have additional visits for various reasons. So that really continued into 2021, and it just made it easier for folks to really access care when they needed it. And we also saw a spike in, adolescents wanting to access care. So making those online services available is really helpful. We also made sure to keep that enhanced member advocate position. So myself and Lejeune, who's also on the team, we work closely with the member advocate team for anything that may be coming through that we need to jump in and show extra support for the City of LA members and their family members. And then also another great thing that was implemented for California is that, as you may know, with the EFAP program, you can call 24/7 and get access to a master's level clinician for in the moment support. And it does not count towards your 5 visits that you have with a provider. And so we've seen a huge increase with individuals using that service. And it's been really great because a lot of times folks need in the moment support and they don't want to wait for an appointment. Or if the time passes, then they don't make the appointment. So it was a great thing that's been offered and people have been really utilizing that. Training support services, as mostly virtual, but in person when needed. We did expand all of our training services to include COVID-19, diversity and inclusion. And we have brought out a variety of new training topics as we see the trends changing on what is important, such as return back to work, things of that nature. Critical incident response, that the city can call us 24/7 for assistance on that. We can do on-site, and we were available for the city throughout the year for anything that they needed for on-site. Same with anything virtually. And last, we'll get into all of the, the actual details of all of this through the presentation. But the last highlight is we did launch a new Live and Work Well website. So it's really just the enhanced website. So it's what your members are used to seeing, but it's just a much better user experience. And so if you go to the next slide, I'll touch on what that is really quickly here. So they've added a lot of personalization. So folks can actually create a Health Safe ID and log in, and it will track their authorizations and any type of stuff that they've been using on the site. Access to articles, videos, self-help things, Senvelo, which is a premium service that they can use free through Live and Work Well. We also streamline and enhance all of the engagement stuff on there to make it so much easier for them to access. But the biggest thing was the provider access. We enhanced the search, but also if you move to the next slide, we added a great new feature, which is being able to get your EAP authorization code in real time. So previously, if you needed services, you requested an EAP authorization code by calling or online. But if you did it online, you'd receive it about 24 hours, within 24 hours, and you would receive it via email. Now, as you can see, as you're searching for a provider, you can actually get your code in real time. Your code is right there. It will save to your account, and you can go ahead and book with a provider immediately. Okay, next slide. So moving into some of the numbers, this is just a quick breakdown of who is using the EAP and Support Plus services by gender, age range, and employee or relationship. So the dark bar is the city of LA, and the lighter yellow is our book of business. We also have the 2021 comparisons just to kind of see year over year. So no surprise, because it is in line with the book of business. The majority of folks opening cases are female, and that did remain for 2021. As you can see, Optum's book of business for 2021 was at 65%. But you do have a healthy amount of male, which is important because you want to ensure that everyone is utilizing the services. To your right there, you can see who is using the services. Is it employee, spouse, or dependent? And it is majority employee. You are pretty much in line with the book of business there. We see employee. That's why it's always important to make sure that we are marketing to let employees know anyone in the household can use the service, especially dependents and spouses. And on the bottom here, we just have a quick breakdown by age. You'll see that the majority is, between that core working age group. For the book of business, it's definitely in that 35 to 49 range. And you guys are in line with that. I do see you have a higher number in the 50 to 65 there. That's just based on the age of your population, but it's great that, everyone is utilizing the services. Next slide. And again, just a reminder that the data we're reviewing is only through Q3 for 2021. So when we have all the data in for Q4, these numbers will also increase. So here we're looking at kind of a snapshot like Keenan reviewed, but at the total engagement percentage. So we've got 2019, 2020, and 2021, and you can see it's all pretty much remained steady. I see that 2021 is definitely probably going to surpass 2020 since we have a whole quarter to add to that. But you didn't see any major dips in total engagement. And that includes not just, are you seeing a provider, but are you using everything that's included, right? All of the Support Plus services, all of the online services. Your headcounts remained pretty much the same. And as you can see, these are just your numbers across the board for total engagement, training, participation, critical incident, and visits to the website. I do see visits to the website a little down, but that lets us know that folks know how to access things. And so they may be calling or they already have it set up on their phone to access in a virtual format. Below, I think Keenan touched on this, but you can just compare the book of business to the city of LA on what was number 1, 2, and 3 for the top presenting issues. And it gives you a breakdown there. Anxiety is obviously high up in the book of business, and marital primary relationship is also high on City of LA and is, I believe, in our top 5 for book of business. Next slide. So here's an interesting slide. As you know, you get 5 visits with a provider when you engage with an actual provider. And this first bar across the middle is showing year over year, 2021, 2020, who used all 5 visits or what the percentage is. So as you can see, there's a large percentage of people who use 1 visit and then they don't follow through with the 2, 3, and 4. But we have a large percentage here that is using all 5 of their visits. And that's what we want to see. If someone is engaging with the provider, we want them to get all 5 visits and to really be able to get to the root or core of whatever it is that they need. Again, since you can call in and speak with a master's level clinician and it doesn't count towards your 5 visits, they could be doing that as well and following up in that format. But it does look strong in the fact that you do have a large percentage using all 5 visits. What's also very interesting on this slide is the virtual visit rate increase. So I'll actually go to the left here. Last year it was 38.1. You're up to 75.7. It's more than doubled. So what that tells me here is that people are growing comfortable with seeking services in a virtual format. Changes, have happened, and now they are seeking services in that way from the comfort of their own home. You can see that it used to be here in this grid at the bottom, more telephonic or face-to-face, and the trend is definitely changing. And also up in the
I'm sorry, can I ask a clarifying question on that? So it's in that box, it's 38.1% for 2020. Yeah. What is the 29.3 for 2020 to the right? Yeah. What does that refer to?
I just noticed that as well. I think it's just a typo. So I will confirm the number and then update the deck for you guys. Okay. I do believe it was the, let's see, actually it's the 29.3 because if you look at the grid below, it corresponds with above. So this box just needs to be corrected. So I'll say it's 29.3, so it's definitely more than doubled.
Okay.
And I will update that. And you can see our book of business is in line with that below. The member revisit rate in the upper right or left-hand corner just lets you know what percentage of people have opened more than 1 case. 1 case is equaling getting approved for those 5 visits. So maybe they receive 5 visits for stress and anxiety related to work. And then maybe a couple months later, they opened a new case. Maybe they were having marital or legal issues. It's just showing that you guys do have a good amount of revisit rate, which just lets us know that they used the services once, they were comfortable, they received an outcome that they were happy with, and so they sought services again, which is actually a good thing if they need it. Next slide.
I have a quick question on that too. It's got, are you tracking any data as far as long-term, the duration that people are in the program?
So
it would be helpful for us to understand if people are long-term, short-term. It's a general question. I'm certainly not asking that to be today, but it might be something we want to consider going forward to capture is the duration of some individuals through the program. Might give us some idea of the snapshot or scope of that.
Yeah, so with EFAP, when you get an approval, you get 5 sessions. So it won't extend beyond those 5 sessions for that reason per year. Are you referring to like over several years? Like how many?
As well as, is somebody using all 5? Is 5 not enough? We have no gauge on that. So it'd be helpful to have some kind of understanding if everybody's utilizing all 5, maybe we'll want to add a 6 or 7 at some point. I don't know. I'm just giving examples. Or, somebody's a repeat customer, maybe we should be making a little more deep dive in that particular area. But without that data, we have no way to know. And that's just why I just point that out.
Yeah, on the previous slide, it does show how many visits people were using. So across the top here, were they using 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? And so you've got a good percentage using all 5, but you've also got a pretty good percentage only using 1 visit. And then that revisit rate lets us know that they've opened another case, but it's for a different reason. So it's not long-term, because long-term would go under the behavioral health benefit, but for a new reason. But I can dig into this slide.
We don't have the topics either. What's the revisit for? You know, the breakout on that. That's all.
Yeah, I can definitely get a further breakdown of this slide and drill in and provide some additional detail around it. So I will definitely dig in with our data team to provide that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So on this slide, it does give you a quick look at what work-life services have been used year to date. So when we say work-life, that's your support plus. So it's all of these things on the right-hand side, the elder services, chronic condition support, it's everything outside of the counseling. So as you can see, definitely in 2021, adult and elder care support is still very high on the list for you guys. It was higher in 2020, but that means that you have a large population that are caregivers and they need that extra support, especially during COVID. So we've been able to provide a variety of different services to them. As you can see on the right side for adult and elder, this can be anything from housing assistance to financial planning, retirement planning. Child and parenting came in second, with work life in third. And so, you know, child and parenting is no surprise, with so many folks making so many adjustments with their children in school and just scheduling. So this is just a great breakdown to show you how those extra services are being utilized. And your work-life case utilization is at 0.3%, and our book of business was at 0.2. So it just lets us know that your folks are utilizing these services on par with the book of business. Okay, next slide. So here is a quick breakdown of the management consultations and referrals. So management consultation services is when anytime someone in a management or HR position within City of LA has reached out for some help with an employee. It could be, we have a breakdown of below: inappropriate workplace behavior, personal issues, like what those calls were about. And we provide 24/7 unlimited access to our certified employee assistance professionals to give advice and help in all of these areas. So as you can see in Q4, you've already used 4, and it continues to grow. So we'll take a look at, actually should be through Q3. You've used 2. Q4, we have the 2020, but we don't have the 2021 numbers yet. Now, management referrals. This is when maybe a management consultation has taken place and someone needed to refer someone formally into the program, right? So they say, there is an issue and I'd like to refer this member into the program. As you can see below, it shows a breakdown of what those referrals were. So mandatory referral means that it is mandatory that they participate in the program. It could be some type of a formal HR plan that they are on, or some type of corrective action plan. And so it's mandatory as a part of that, that they, you know, participate in the program. A formal referral means that they actually made a formal referral into the program, but it's not mandatory that the employee actually participate. And then we have special handling, which means that there's been a referral in, but the employee did not sign a release, so we're handling it special and not reporting back progress in the program. And then DOT would be if there was something DOT related. And then on the right-hand side, just gives you a breakdown of some of the other reasons that you could refer into the program. Okay, next slide. Here's a quick look at our critical incident response and training topics. So as you can see here on the right-hand side, COVID-19 remained the top topic of training, preparing you and your family for return to work. That was the goal of everybody, I think, last year, right? And in a quick, close second was how to manage people effectively. So that was for your managers and HR staff, probably preparing them for that return to work and how to really deal with all of the changes for many of the employees. A lot of coaching and manager skills and how to address performance concerns are for your other 3 top 5 training topics. Critical incident, no surprise there. Again, it was on the pandemic, and coming in second was grief. And that could be due to obviously loss of an employee or family member, but it was the other top topic for critical incident. All right, next slide. So here we're just going to get into a breakdown of the EFAP case report that were specifically related to COVID-19. So your total cases were 844, and of that, 23 of them were specifically related to COVID-19. You can see the breakdown by age and between COVID related and non-COVID related, and then also by relationship. Here at the bottom, if you can scroll a little bit, let's see, it's blocking me a little, but this is month by month, just the total COVID cases. As you can see, definitely in January, and actually this is a week by week breakdown. In January, you had a very high spike of COVID related cases opened in the EFAP program. And that's after the holidays. That was, after a lot that goes on. I can definitely understand why there would be a spike there. And then again, you saw a spike around the summertime, which also makes sense. So this is just giving you a breakdown by timeline. Next slide. So here again is similar to what we saw before, but just specific to COVID-19. Grief and loss was the highest COVID presenting issue. Anxiety and then child and parenting round out the top 3. And then as you can see towards the bottom, there was a healthy equal amount of workplace, depression, family issues, marital issues, and other. And to your right here, these are the top COVID referral sources. So a family member referred them in, or they've used the benefit before, they used the website, or even HR referred them into the program. And then at the bottom, it just shows what else did we help with whenever folks contacted us about a COVID case. So as you can see, just giving a full benefit overview, and also focusing on, COVID-19 call where you could just talk through all of the COVID-19 educational materials, and then EAP was third. All right, next slide.
In terms of financial, what does that look like? Is that a consultation with if some people have a budget problem? What does that look like?
Yeah, so financial services and legal services can kind of go hand in hand, but financial services, yes. If you're looking, it could be anything from budgeting a vacation that you've always wanted to take, to looking closer at retirement, to getting assistance with a budget. Maybe someone in the household lost a job and they now only have one source of income and they need to figure out how to handle that. Maybe they need to file bankruptcy and needed help with that. So that would be, the financial services and the legal services. We did see a pretty good increase with folks wanting to do like a medical directive, right? Because so many people were ending up in the hospital, or they wanted to do a living will or something of that nature. So they kind of go hand in hand, but yes, definitely the financial services are.
It's offering of consultation and a referral services both.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
The financial side does offer consultation and referral services, if you will.
Yeah, so if they spoke with one of our specialists, they actually do have a benefit for financial services where you can speak with a certified financial person and have, believe it's 2 30-minute sessions with a certified financial consultant who will not only help you to achieve whatever goal it is that you're looking for, but they also help to motivate them to look forward into the future on long-term goals. And so they'll set those goals and then show them how to achieve them as well. So,
So
yeah.
in this case, for example, let me ask a different way. During this pandemic, person has a financial hardship. They lost money, lost income. Does the EAP service offer a referral service where they can get financial help, money, loans? Is that also part of what the program offers?
Yeah, so when they're speaking with a financial consultant, yes, they can refer them over to resources in their area to help assist them with those types of requests, such as getting a loan or finding some type of resource and assistance. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. And the last thing, yep, this is it. So this is our contact info. I think you all have this, the access code to the site. And then I think I included in the appendix, just so that everyone knows, I think it's on the appendix here. This is the calendar for the remainder of the year on all the topics. We'll be putting out information on the website, sending out newsletters on all of these topics. You can make it larger whenever you're looking at it yourself, if it's hard to see. And this will just let you know of what kind of content to expect that you can share with your employees throughout the year. And that is all that we had for you today. So thank you so much for letting me present. And if there's any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions or discussion related to the presentation?
I just have one quick little thing. I noticed that you mentioned that it's close to 30% roundabout that use all 5 of the sessions, but I think you had increased that, or you had eliminated that limit for a particular time period, and there was only, I think it was 6 people had taken advantage of additional sessions. So do we think that 5 is sufficient, or would there be a need to increase? I kind of want to get some thoughts on that, because looking at the 30%, I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe that's not sufficient. But if it's increased and not a lot of people take advantage of that, is that a lack of communication, or is that just there's not the demand for it?
Yeah, I'm going to drill into those numbers a little bit more and see what I can find to provide a recommendation. Our team can do that. What I will say is what a lot of employers are doing is really marketing the sessions that they have, the 5 sessions, but also marketing the fact that they have unlimited sessions with the master's level counselor just by calling the EAP. So those can be supplemental either on the front end or on the back end as well. And that's at no charge to you guys, and it's already included. So I did do a huge campaign with another client of really marketing that, and they saw an increase in that, and the feedback they got that it met the need. But I'll dig into the numbers. We'll provide a recommendation, and I can also provide some marketing materials around making sure they understand that that benefit is also available and doesn't count towards their 5 sessions.
Thank you.
I did have a comment, not a question, about the presentation. I just wanted to thank Optum. We here at Rec and Parks just recently took advantage of some Optum training for our grounds maintenance staff and our recreation professionals. I think it was like workplace respect and communication, but we're trying to take advantage as much as we can of the training that's provided. So I wanted to thank Optum for their good work.
Absolutely, and thanks for your participation. The more that you guys participate and put those trainings out to your employees, the more that they know about the program and feel comfortable with using it. So thank you for that as well.
So the city clerk as well has, yeah, thank you, Paul. City clerk has taken advantage of your training, so I do appreciate that. But my question is kind of along the previous question, and that is, but on the other end of the spectrum, on the only use one and drop off, has there been any analysis as to why? I mean, I can give an anecdotal, but I don't know that that translates across the board. A reason why somebody would only call once and then drop off.
Yeah, and that's what it is, mostly anecdotal, because each individual person's situation is different, you know. We don't, because it is an anonymous program, and
Got
you know
it.
everything is, we don't really track exactly why they used one session. Maybe they felt it was sufficient, and that's why we did get some feedback that one session was enough, because they just needed support, someone to talk to that one time, and that's why we really implemented that master's level 24/7, so that they could call and do that instead of using part of their session and dropping out. But I am going to dig into as much as I can on that slide and just all of those numbers and see what we can definitely come up with.
Okay, I know, and again, I know nobody wants to hear it, but for me personally, it was because my drop off was because the intake. I mean, something went horribly wrong and lost in the intake to where they didn't know where I was. I mean, they were asking if I was in, this was on the follow-up call, if I was in San Francisco or in Arizona, and I gave up.
Well,
just again, anecdotally.
Yeah, no, definitely, you know, experience is a huge part of that, and we don't want that to happen. So, you know, definitely can look into that, because I would love to be able to identify and, you know, be able to make sure it doesn't happen again going forward. But thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that.
Sorry, I have a little bit of a follow-up. Once they finish their sessions, what's the process for if they do need continuing care? If maybe it's something that they need to access their medical plan resources for, is there some sort of transition process in place for that, or how does that work?
Yeah, so when they engage with the provider, they use those 5 sessions. As the 5th session is nearing, if the provider makes the recommendation of a continuation, or the employee says they would like that continuation, that the 5 sessions weren't enough, the provider will then take their behavioral health, medical, whichever benefit they're going to use next, and they will verify that they're in network, and they will verify benefits, and the provider will do that transition for them. And then they will be able to continue with that provider if they're in network.
Okay, and what if they're not in network?
So if that provider says, well, I don't take your medical or BH, whatever it is, benefit, then they would need to find an in-network provider. So generally speaking, most of the time they do take, and you know, that transition is usually a smooth transition, but there is, you know, one-off cases where they don't, and then they would need to seek a provider that's in network that goes with whatever benefit they have.
Okay, so then the member would just go and find that on their own.
They would do that through their behavioral health or medical benefits site, just like they would through the EAP site or anything. They would search for a provider, contact them, ask for an in-network provider, and set that appointment up for that continuation, because that would be a higher level of care. Once you're getting into those levels of benefits, you're now seeking more of a long-term care versus a short-term care.
Okay. Okay, and then if they do have to transition to an in-network, if the provider they're using through the EFAP is not in network, does the record of that care get transitioned over to the in-network provider that they're using through their health plan?
Absolutely. They'll have, the employee would need to, or the member would need to sign like a release, a consent, just like if any provider, for them to release those records over. And absolutely, they would definitely want to transition those records over for that continuation of care. Yes.
Okay. And is that something that's automatically done, or the member has to be aware of that need and ask for it and start that process? Or does the EFAP provider have that discussion with them and initiate that process?
It's usually the new provider that will initiate that. So if they have that change of the new provider, they're filling out their new or new member form. You know how you do when you go to a new doctor, you have to fill out the information, and it always asks, do you have records that you can release? Can you provide that information? They sign that, and then they usually send it via fax these days or electronically. So it is a part of the new patient forms, and that is how the initiation takes place, because they have to approve it.
Okay, thank you. I think I would like to see if we know that process is going to be happening. I think it would be helpful for our members if the Optum provider in that fourth or fifth session kind of reviewed that process a bit with the members so that they understand, because I can see them going to assuming that they actually do reach out to their health plan, because this is an added step. Go out to their health plan and then actually get an appointment, which is an issue currently, but that's hopefully temporary. And then fills out that form. They may not be aware that they need to check that box, or they need to specifically say, they might not necessarily understand. So I think it would be helpful if there was a bit of a conversation with the member at that point, so they know what process they should be following. When you get to your new provider, make sure you indicate this, and then that we can, so that they understand the process. I think that would be helpful.
And absolutely, I know that the providers do cover that with them, usually if there is a transition, and it is the outlier. So 90%, probably even more, that provider is going to be in network. So yeah, definitely understand that. Want to make it as easy of a transition as possible, so they continue with the care.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome. Okay, anything else? Well, I appreciate the time and the opportunity to present. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. I also want to thank you guys a lot for what you're doing. We also have utilized your services a lot at ITA. I think those numbers where you had the attendees on almost all 5 of those classes were mostly my group's employees trying to improve their supervisor services and skills. All right, so our concluding items, does anybody have any requests for future agenda items?
I don't, but I do want to say that I'll probably be stepping back to alternate Chris Hannon. He's going to be appointing Chad Baggio, who's basically city replacement, doing his previous job. He's moved up at building trades. So I'm talking to Chris. At some point in the next meeting or two, you'll see Chad sitting here, and I'll be relegated back to alternate, which is fine with me, but I've enjoyed working with all of you. I may or may not be participating in the next meeting. We'll see what happens, but I've enjoyed working with this group. Thanks.
Thank you, Gavin. All right, so the next meeting is scheduled. The February 3rd meeting is being canceled, so the next meeting will actually be on February 10th. And if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.